Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Sens, former Sens, all over the news. Cody Ceci, Jason Spezza, Tyler Ennis, even got a little Dominik Kubalik, though it's hard to qualify him as a former Senator. He was here for a year, but was he really? Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Greg, how are you today?
I'm very good, Stephen. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much.
What we didn't do? We didn't talk about the Red Blacks tie, and now they've won a game since then too. Like, this team's on fire, man.
Yep, Red Blacks off to a 6-2-1 start. An actual depth at quarterback.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Masoli came in last week and looked very good. So, yeah, things looking good on the gridiron. The Sens are making some good decisions. I fired it. This is the state of the Ottawa Senator or the Ottawa sports fan. I put it out on Twitter. Guys, Sens are making good decisions. They're run professionally. The Red Blacks are 6-2-1 at the midway point of the season. I think the black clouds have lifted. Instead of embracing that, everybody was hitting me with, "You're jinxing them. How dare you? Knock on wood, damn it."
Stop. Well, you know what, Steve? It's probably true. We should probably hold off a little on the positive vibes. Let's just wait a bit. Let's get through the first month of the season and see if the Sens really have turned a corner.
Well, yeah, I think we can agree they're going in the right direction. Even if this coming season goes completely sideways and miss the playoffs, I'm still going to be so much more confident because, well, in the guys that they have, whether it's ownership or the new management group, I don't know what they will amount to exactly, but I do know they don't have a tough act to follow. So I think I'm in a good headspace. I think everybody's being treated well as employees. I think they're trying to do the right things, and that's half the battle right there.
For sure. And I read an article the other day on Kevin Labanc. I've mentioned him more than a few times as a guy I'd love to see them pick up in some way, shape, or form and get him on the roster and see if they can't resurrect his career here in Ottawa. And now I'm reading the best he can hope for is probably a PTO. So maybe I'm still holding out hope, Steve, that Kevin Labanc might be the answer in the bottom six on this team, that maybe he gets here as a PTO, on a PTO.
Yeah, maybe. I certainly don't want the Labanc that's been in San Jose the last couple of years because he's healthy scratched for half the year this past season. Yeah. But if you're going to show up somewhere and be the 2018-19 version of Kevin Labanc, then worth a PTO all day long. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think he didn't exactly see eye to eye with David Quinn.
Yep.
They were having their battles, so maybe a change of address will be good for him. And in the spirit of like Bailey last year, why not take a shot? And if he comes out and does some good things, then maybe you got something there. Anyway, let us get into it in a big way. By the way, in terms of big, I've got the tiny glasses on right now. and if this is for YouTube viewers, they're different in that they're my wife's reading glasses.
I could see the little tortoiseshell on the arms there.
Yeah, there's all kinds of interesting things about it. Very tiny.
Very nice.
But I broke mine, and so I haven't gotten around to buying some, but I'm blind otherwise. So that's what's happening here. One of my clients that I work with online, she said, "You look like a German filmmaker." I wasn't sure whether that's a compliment or trying to bury me. Anyway, let's get to it.
Sure.
I think the story that grabbed me the most was just thinking about Jason Spezza a little bit. Only 2 years into retirement, this guy's already a GM in pro hockey.
Yeah.
When he left hockey as a player just 2 years ago at the end of the 21-22 season with the Leafs, he went right into management with Kyle Dubas to become his special advisor. And then last year, he ended up going with Dubas to Pittsburgh, where he became the assistant GM. And now Dubas made him the GM of he's going to continue to do assistant GM with the Penguins, but now he's the AHL full-time GM, very much the way Ryan Bowness is in Ottawa, same kind of role. But I compare the two. Bowness was in Pittsburgh for 7 years before he was in Ottawa. And I think the highest he got was director of scouting until he came to Ottawa. Spetz has been out of playing for 2 years, and now he's running the show with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's a standard, normal procedure type move in the NHL that the assistant GM at the NHL level is often serves as the GM in with the farm club. It's happened here over the years. Bonus now, and Pierre Dorion at one time was, Randy Lee at one time was. So that's standard operating procedure. I don't know that a guy 2 years out of retirement, bang, you're a GM. That's a lot. But then again, Jason Spezza is a big guy in the world of stats and the game of hockey and understanding and learning. And this is a natural progression for him. And to see him do it as quickly as he has, I don't think Kyle Dubas, that's not a candy he's just going to throw at somebody. He's obviously got a lot of respect for Jason Spezza, and Spezza's obviously proven his mettle. And it's a natural progression now, just earlier than you might have thought.
Yeah. And that's the only criticism I might have, in that it's fast, but that doesn't mean he can't do it. And he has been putting the work in, but he's been jumping past experienced, viable candidates the way he would say jump past Sheldon Souray on a breakaway in overtime. Anyway, it wasn't really a breakaway. It was a one-on-one. Way to blow the punchline, Steve. But here is Kyle Dubas talking last year. This was the day that Dubas was hired as the new player. The director, the president of hockey operations. He would later become the GM, and brought Jason Spezza over straight away. The two of them are tied at the hip. But this is the reason, these are the reasons why Dubas was excited to have him on board.
In the 3 years when he played for us, had gone from being an all-star player, transforming into being a fourth line winger or center, penalty killer, and had taken on that role and taken on a tremendous leadership role with the group. And obviously impressive with his intelligence and the way that he handled every single thing that came his way during his 3 years as a player in Toronto, and how he handled the acceptance of a massive change in role in his late 30s. And then, when we talked to him after the 2022 playoffs, and it was in our mind, it was time for him to kind of move on. And he had expressed the ambition to get into management. And then, so we built out a plan for him for the year, and to say he jumped all the way in would be an understatement. I mean, the amount of work that he put in on all fronts to try to learn as much as he could and advance himself as quickly as he could through the year was very impressive. And he has a certain way about him that he can, he's close enough in terms of his playing experience that he can help and relate to the players, but provide sort of that conduit between management and the players, where he can hold them accountable, push them, but then also provide us some feedback of where we can help them without crossing any lines of confidentiality or conflict of interest. And he's able to sort of thread the needle perfectly. And I think with our group here, with where we're at now, but also where we want to go, his affinity for the development side, the minor league system, I just think he adds so much. And so to be able to have him come in here, I think is a massive benefit for me personally coming into this role, Taylor, but also just for the whole group, for the coaching staff, the players, for everybody in the building, just his demeanor and the way he goes about every day, his intelligence, his work ethic, and how much he's willing to learn from everybody involved. It'll be a great boost for us as we start to build out our staff through the summer.
Just Kyle Dubas, boy, he can go.
Holy smokes.
That's a long, well thought out answer from Kyle Dubas.
Yeah. You got 5 minutes? I want to talk to you for a sec.
Yeah, exactly. That thing he said there at the end, though, I mean, because this was a year ago that he made those comments, the day that he took over the Penguins, talking about Spezza loving or having an affinity for the minor league system, for development. Those are the attributes you're looking for in a GM in the AHL.
Yeah, and he did play in the AHL, and he did play in the NHL, so he would have a just natural skills and understanding of how to build a roster and how to build a team. And having played in the American Hockey League, would understand the mix required of young developing players versus some veterans to so that your team could at least have success. That is probably the biggest problem that guys face when they're trying to run a team in the American Hockey League is you can't really run it as just a farm club and just put all your kids there. And who cares if you win or lose, because there's an owner down there who wants to win hockey games and wants to have stars and veterans and people who are going to draw fans playing for his team. So it's a real mix of a roster at the American Hockey League level. And I think Jason Spezza probably has a pretty good understanding of how that works. And it's whether he has the skills to put that roster together or not, I guess we'll find out, but he certainly knows what's required.
Yeah, and living through it is definitely a helpful thing. You think about living the life of a young player, trying to make it from the AHL into the NHL, especially when your coach is saying things like, he's still a boy, it's a man's league, something along those lines. All those experiences go into his decision-making now as an executive. So, yeah, I think I like the move. That would be, again, that one little red flag is he's only been in it 2 years, but it does sound like he is a guy who doesn't mind cramming for an exam and the job that he wants to do here. The question that I have now, though, Greg, is should Spezza be on the Wall of Fame or is it Ring of Honor? Yeah, Ring of Honor.
Right.
Which is it? Ring of Honor?
It's Ring of Honor.
I should know that by now, but what's wrong with Wall of Fame? That would have been fine too. Anyway, should he be on the Ring of Honor, have his number retired, or do nothing?
Yeah. Should he get a pillar? That's what it is, right? That you get a pillar. Is there actually a ring up there with names on it?
No, you just they've slapped on Brian Murray and Wade Redden on two of the pillars. I don't know how many pillars would you say there is? Probably 30.
Yeah, they got lots of pillars left.
Yep.
So the question is he a retired jersey or is he a pillar? I'll tell you
or
this
neither.
much. No, he's one or the other. I believe though he might become where they place him will have a huge impact on all future decisions when it comes to this decision or this department, right? Like, yeah, I think Jason Spezza is probably the pinnacle of the fence guy, one or the other. Which is it? He's one or the other. I'm not sure which. And I think whichever way they go will sort of set the bar for, if he's a pillar guy, he's going to be one of the highest ranked or better skilled players to ever be on a pillar. If he's a retired jersey guy, then I think it really does set a bar for me. I think, I think he's probably a pillar guy myself.
When you talk about setting bar and talk about precedent, I don't know if that's a factor, because once you've let Chris Neil and Chris Phillips in as retired jersey guys, like I was surprised that Wade Redden isn't also in that category. And I'd certainly be surprised if Jason Spezza isn't in that category. So I don't know how much stock they're putting in setting the bar and precedent. I will say that I wouldn't discount doing nothing, because we cannot forget, and maybe, send us an email. Let us know what you think. SensNationHockey@outlook.com. The guy did ask for a trade. When Alfie left, Spezza took over the captaincy, and instead of embracing the captaincy, he left after a year. He wanted to be traded. So that's got to at least enter into your thinking a little bit, right?
I would think so, yeah, especially with the fan base. You're absolutely correct. But I think there's probably a lot of decisions like that, including Danny Heatley's decision like that you can blame, put at the footsteps or put at the whatever I'm trying to say of Eugene Melnyk. Eugene Melnyk probably has a lot more to do with Danny Heatley's decision and Jason Spezza's decision than most other places where a guy asks to be traded. It's not very often it's ownership that plays a role in someone asking to be traded. As for your comment about Neil and Phillips retired jerseys, I think the bar is set there as this group who's ever voting on these things places more value in games played and tenure and seasons than it does necessarily in performance, especially when you look at Redden. Like if Redden had been here 5 more years, I think he's a jersey retirement. But I think that the shorter tenure speaks to something to these people who are making these decisions, which is how you get a Chris Neil jersey. Like, let's face it, if Chris Neil played for 5 or 6 years, he wouldn't have anything. But he was here for so long and beloved for so long that he gets the jersey. I think that's the way it works anyway.
Yeah, I think 11 seasons is not a short tenure. And I think, you took a bit of my thunder away with the Melnyk thing, because I think that's exactly my thinking as well. No, it's not your fault. I think the bottom line is whoever you're talking about, because some people might say, well, you can't use the I wanted a trade scenario because, well, Daniel Alfredsson left in his final season. But in all those cases, extenuating circumstances, even fans, when Melnyk was at his best, were saying things like, I'm not buying season tickets anymore until that guy's gone. Melnyk out, all those things. So if the fans wanted out, you can hardly blame the players for wanting a trade. So there were extenuating circumstances. And I just don't think you can keep a guy who was with the Ottawa Senators for 11 years. He's there. If you take Daniel Alfredsson out of the equation, Take the Alfie category out. Right. He was their number one scorer in points, goals, assists. I think that's a retirement. I think that's a jersey retirement. And you've got to put away that notion of, I'm not putting him in because he requested a trade, extenuating circumstances, just like Alfie, just like Heatley.
You've convinced me, Steve. I'm with you. It's a jersey retirement.
All right.
There you go.
Perfect.
I'm with you. Well done.
Congratulations.
Yes, good persuasion, my friend.
Congrats to Speds. Although we don't do it when the Penguins are in town. I don't want to put it.
Oh, no, it will happen when the Penguins are here. No, you know what? Yep. They'll do it on a Leaf night.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I guess you got to do one or the other.
No. They'll do it on a Columbus Blue Jacket night so they can get more fans to come to the game. That's how you do it.
Interesting. All right. We'll worry about the ceremony later. Let's wait till he's named before we figure that stuff out. Also on the former Senator front, the Edmonton Oilers have traded away Cody Ceci. I was thinking today and joking on the hockey news, thn.com/Ottawa, that Cody Ceci would need a decompression chamber to go from a team that was one goal away from a Stanley Cup ring to the very worst team in the National Hockey League overnight. On Sunday night, Ceci was traded away to the San Jose Sharks, largely because they needed his dough. It sounds like they may try and match one of these offer sheets that the St. Louis Blues sent toward Broberg and Holloway, and Ceci is now a San Jose Shark as the result. And I should actually tell you exactly what the trade was. It was, bear with me. It was Ceci and a 2025 third rounder to San Jose for defenseman Ty Emberson. And it's interesting about Emberson. He played for Chris Knobloch a couple of seasons ago in AHL Hartford. So it's not exactly a throwaway name. He played quite a bit for San Jose this year, so he will have a shot at a job in Edmonton this year. But what say you about Cody Ceci being on the move and the reasons for it?
Well, the reasons were obvious. Something had to be done, and Cody Ceci was the name at the top of pretty much everyone's list as the guy that was going to be moved out. You got to throw in the sweetener of the third-round pick, which I believe was once belonged to the Senators. Is that right? Is that the pick that was once a Senator pick? So then you have to throw that in to convince San Jose to take him without having to eat any salary. Like San Jose is taking on the full ticket. And the only good thing about it for Cody Ceci is climate-wise, he comes out okay. In the standings, no, but climate-wise, I think he makes out all right. Going from January, February in Edmonton to January, February in San Jose is a nice little trade-off there, I think.
That draft pick was actually in a separate trade from the Ceci deal, the Ottawa one. It was a fourth rounder that Ottawa also gave up in the Roby Yarventi deal that saw the Sens end up with Xavier Bourgault and Jake Chason. And so that was a pick that was in a separate trade, the fourth rounder, as the Oilers picked up winger Vasily Podkolzin from the Vancouver Canucks. And he was the 10th overall pick in the 2019 draft. And that only cost the Oilers a 25 fourth rounder, which used to belong to the Senators. And so people are thinking, okay, Holloway may be gone, and that might be the replacement for him. And there's still no, I assume the timing means, they're going to try and hang on to either Broberg or Holloway, but people are noting tonight, because we're recording this right now on Monday, August 19th, and Tuesday, August the 20th in the morning is when the Oilers are going to have to either match the offer or say, no, we're going to bail and accept like a second rounder and a third rounder as compensation. Yuck. But people are saying on social media that those two players have disappeared from the Oilers website. Maybe that's something they do because they signed the offer sheet and just sort of in limbo. I don't know. But people are saying that they have both disappeared as of Monday night at 8:00 from the Oiler website. So I guess there's a chance that they're not going to match either offer.
And it's not a done deal that they're under the cap, right? There's still finagling they have to do. They will have to send down one or both of the guys they just acquired, or maybe a Connor Brown. Somebody's got to be ticketed for the minors. Plus, you've got to put Evander Kane on LTIR. So there's moves they have to make beyond just this. They're not suddenly cap compliant if they sign these two guys now, if they match the offer sheets. So kudos to St. Louis for actually making an offer and really being smart about it. Like there's certain players that you look at them and go, oh yeah, got to make an offer on this guy. But depending on the salary, it can cost you up to 4 first-round picks. This is a really nice, intelligent little cutthroat move. Find a team susceptible in trouble with the cap. Find 2 players instead of having to take a second or third round pick in a couple of years from now and hope he turns into maybe a bottom 6 forward and maybe an emerging defenseman. You go out and sign these 2 guys. The development stuff's been done. They should be able to slip right into your lineup, and you might be able to squeeze it through because Edmonton's in such a cap crunch. So it'll be interesting to see. I think they do plan to match, and then they've still got some cap gymnastics after the fact to make everything work out. But I believe Edmonton will match now.
Yeah, again, I don't know. When I hear their names are disappearing from websites, we'll see. But it's still in limbo as we record this here now. Puckpedia put together a list of the options. So, yes, they can match both offer sheets. If they match both and Kane returns with everyone healthy, they'd have to make a trade at that point.
Mm-hmm.
If assuming that Kane goes on long-term injured reserve with his $5.1 million. And if they match Broberg and not Holloway, they would still be cap compliant when Kane returns, and they wouldn't have to make another trade. So that's the official list of possible scenarios. And there's actually another Senator trade involved in this whole mess because the Blues, they couldn't make any of these offer sheets without having the compensation ready beforehand. So
Right.
They knew it would be a second rounder and a third rounder, but they had to have those in place, and they didn't at the time. So they did a separate deal with the Penguins for draft picks and stuff that allowed them to get that. But as part of that, the Penguins end up with the third rounder from Ottawa that the Blues got in the Matthew Joseph trade. So that's the other
Louis
Senator
specifically had to go to Pittsburgh because it has to be your own pick. It can't be a third rounder or a second rounder. It has to be your own. So that's why they had to go to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh kind of had them over the barrel on that one. Yeah, I wonder if they knew what St. Louis was up to. Probably not. And after the fact, that if they had known, they might have raised the price a little higher in that deal.
We learned that a little bit just a few days ago. It was, I think, when I forget where I heard it. Anyway, with the Sens, we kind of learned that it has to be your pick when it comes to that first rounder that the Sens have to give up as part of the punishment. Yeah, the Dadonov deal. And so, because they had 2 first rounders and they had Boston's, which was 20-something, 25th. And no, that wouldn't do. If they'd given up that 25th overall pick to the NHL as punishment for the Dadonov deal, that would have been a no-fly for the NHL.
Correct.
So, yeah, they want the actual original pick to belong to the team in question in a lot of cases, including this one. So interesting stuff with the Oilers. Be interesting to see. Do you think this is the start of something? We say this anytime these things come along. Will we ever get away from the nudge, nudge, wink, wink? I will say if I'm Stan Bowman, the new GM of the Edmonton Oilers, I am seriously PO'd with the St. Louis Blues for dragging me away from the cottage and the golf course in mid-August to offer sheet 2 of my big players.
I think it's great. I think it's an opportunity to build your team, to better your hockey club, to build your roster. I just don't understand why it doesn't happen more often with players like this, like middle 6 guys or bottom 6 guys, or second or third pair defensemen, where the salary's not so much, so therefore the compensation's not so much, and you find the right team in a tough situation like Edmonton, and this can happen. I can remember that there was a guy I thought the Senators should have gone after. Somebody on the radio was pushing for it back in the day. It might have even been you, Steve. It was Chernak. So with the Lightning, is that the defenseman's name? That's like the Lightning, basically.
Well, we've done that here on the podcast. We love that guy.
That's a guy where when he was a free agent, like the Lightning skated through 2 summers of having to lop off this guy, lop off that guy, but still having free agents, and nobody ever made an offer sheet to any of them. I thought that Chernak guy, I don't remember who it was who brought it up. It might have been Lloydie. Maybe Lloydie brought it up at the time. And I'm thinking, yep, I agree with that because I like that guy. That's a guy you could have got. Now, of course, it's the same old is the guy even interested in signing? Who knows? Maybe they tried. Maybe Pierre Dorion tried at the time and got, no, I'm not leaving a Stanley Cup champion to come to Ottawa. But I don't understand why it doesn't happen a little more often in these more budget type free agent signings where it doesn't cost you the 4 first rounders. To me, it's an opportunity to build your roster where the development's already been done in some other team system. And you kind of got a better idea. You got a good pro scouting staff. You've got an idea of what this guy looks like and what his long-term potential could be.
Chernak, man. I'd love that.
Yeah.
That type of player back on the blue line. That was what I was kind of hoping for. If you're going to exchange one of these offensive defensemen, they end up with Nick Jensen, who's very defensively sound and works hard. But as I mentioned in a previous episode, I think his total penalty minutes for his career is only a couple more than Brady Tkachuk had last season alone. It's not exactly because when Chernak and he's not lighting it up with penalty minutes, but he's prickly, he's strong, he's an SOB and defensively sound. And he makes a point to finish checks in as violent a fashion as possible. Not to hurt anybody, but he's just a guy you just hate to play against. And, everybody talks about Kucherov and Stamkos, Hedman, but guys like that, they help you win cups too. I am so done with old school Christmas lights. The tangling, the burning out, the minus 30-degree installation dangling from a ladder. Goodbye Christmas lights. Hello Celebrite, your permanent holiday lighting solution. I've got them on my home right now. When it's daylight, they're absolutely invisible, but at nighttime, things come to life. Right now, with the beautiful weather, we're looking forward to Canada Day. And of course, the classic colors of Christmas. You can really make the lights dance, all controlled from your smartphone. And on those nights when there is no occasion or holiday, you can roll with just a beautiful, subtle white light. And the installation team from Celebrite Ottawa was fantastic. So you can keep on rolling with old school Christmas lights, or you can contact them today at celebrite.ca. Yay! In the last episode, we closed it out by talking about the potential that Auston Matthews might get the captaincy in Toronto. It has now become official. We're on different sides of it. You could see some merit to it. My feeling was, no way John Tavares wanted to do this. I think he's being a good soldier. If he wants to stay a Toronto Maple Leaf, and I'm not sure he won't somehow be traded even with that contract, that's going to be hard, $11 million, yikes. But I think if you want to hang around with the organization still, you've got to play nice. You got to go along with what they want. And he said all the right things, as you have to. But I honestly think no hockey player ever wants to give up the C. They just go along because that's what the team wants. Now that you've seen the trade-off, the handoff of the captaincy, what do you think?
First of all, did they really have to have a press conference like that, an official ceremony and all that stuff? Like, is that really necessary? But that's the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's the Toronto media. I guess you have to. It's difficult. Like, John Tavares isn't exactly the most emotional guy in the world talking. He's very monotone. Like, you could watch that. If you didn't know John Tavares and you'd never heard him speak and you watched it, and you listen to his comments, you would come away thinking that guy's not happy at all. But if you know John Tavares, you've heard him speak, you'd go, geez, he's just as boring as ever, droning on in a simple monotone voice, So you weren't really going to be able to read much into it, even the body language, who knows? I think that I don't know if it was his idea. I don't know if he went to the team first, but I truly believe that he was okay with it. I don't think he feels slighted. I don't think they pressured him to do it. I think he could read the writing on the wall and kind of get the idea that, this is the way to go. He may not like it. He may not be happy about it. Deep down, I think he probably knows this is what's going to happen. It's inevitable. And I think as a leader that he is and a quality character person that he is, I think he's okay with it on some level anyway.
Right. Tree Living said something along the lines of, quoting Tavares and saying, when he came from Long Island to Toronto, it was to live out his dream as a Leaf, not to live out his dream as Leaf captain. I think they're over explaining it. And So I think, well, let me go with the first thing. I think the reason they do it now is that gives them a couple extra months to sell jerseys. Everybody's going to have the Auston Matthews captaincy now. Got to sell some jerseys. That's part of it. But I mean, I guess the question is, do you think Auston Matthews will be a better player? Do you think the Leafs will be a better team because this move was made? I don't.
No. It has no effect on the performance of Auston Matthews. It has no effect on the performance of the team. No. A leader is a leader, whether he's got a letter on his jersey or not. It's an old cliche. I don't need a letter to be a leader. And Auston Matthews will lead so he's going to have to take a little bit more of a role probably in the social side of things and different events that he'll plan as the captain. But other than that, no, he won't be any different on the ice, nor will the team, in my opinion anyway. I just can't see it having any effect on the performance of either the individual or the team.
I wonder, could it affect him adversely? Because he doesn't seem to me to be that kind of let's go, boys, follow me kind of a player, or the kind of player that's going to, know all the social cues that a leadership needs to follow. That guy's not playing well. He's not trying hard. He out drinking, whatever it is, whatever discussion needs to be. It seems like Auston Matthews would prefer to just go out and score goals to me. He seems like that kind of a player. He doesn't seem like the guy that wants to be bothered with all that. He wants to go out and do his thing. I think he likes the idea of the sea because, well, every hockey player loves the sea. Yeah. I don't know if he wants all the trappings and all the responsibility that goes with it.
Yeah, he definitely comes across as a lead by example guy. It's safe to say that he basically won that game for them in the playoffs this past year. He leads by example. He took them on his back and said, "We're not losing tonight. Follow me." But I don't know that he stood up and said that. I think he just went on the ice and did that. And there's a difference there.
Right. No, there's no doubt. I mean, my favorite player is Daniel Offertson, and he didn't exactly, get vocal very often, and still got the job done. Moving on, we got some other things to wrap before we wrap up the show. Tyler Ennis in the news. He had a humorous moment on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, talking about the moment he knew he was done. So when he left the NHL, and he had 2 stints with the Ottawa Senators in the last 4 years here, also played for the Oilers and for the Leafs. And he talked a little bit about the how out of this world Matthews and McDavid were as teammates and the skill level they had. He said, my whole life I was known as the skill guy, and I had nothing compared to these two guys. So anyway, his NHL career sort of petered out, and so he went to Switzerland for a year. They didn't ask him back, which was a bit of a red flag when Switzerland doesn't want you back. He played 7 games in Germany until an incident occurred, and he describes it here on Spittin' Chicklets.
I was just done. Everything was finished. I got hurt in Germany. I was playing in Germany. I fucked up my neck, and
you got
the rehab. The rehab.
Did you get run over?
No, opposite. Yeah, it was a. It actually.
You don't hit in Europe as an import. What are you doing?
It's an outrageous clip. If you see the clip, you'll be like, "That's so stupid."
Like you just tried to just kill someone.
Kind of a weird one. I was like, I went full like Rey Mysterio. Like, I basically jumped and I did a crazy choke slam move, but I got the worst of it. I ended up
karma
race, So I realized I can't be doing Rey Mysterio moves in Germany when I'm 34.
No, it's over. It's over.
Bad luck.
I go, what are you doing, bro? I'm doing treatment in Hoffenheim, Germany, with a neck brace on, and elderly women are doing rehab with me, and I'm like, this is time. You gotta trust when this is the time, and I'm like, okay, this is the time.
Rey Mysterio moves. He's pulling off Rey Mysterio moves in Germany to try and take a guy out, and that pretty much was the end of the line for Tyler Ennis as a pro hockey player.
But he also alluded to a DJ Smith line, like when you can't raise it anymore, you're done. And he suddenly realized that 40% or 50% of his last shots were all along the ice. He can't raise it anymore with any zip on it. And it was DJ Smith who told him that. The day will come, no more raisies, you're done.
And I found that weird, though. You can't raise the puck anymore. What is that? How is that There's plenty of beer leaguers listening right now. Like, what? That happens to NHL players? I could still raise the puck. What the hell are you talking about?
Well, sorry, maybe with any velocity. Let's put it
right.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
Doesn't have the same zip on it.
Right. We're not like, snow shoveling a backhander in the top corner from the slot sort of scenario where we're talking NHL caliber. So, I mean, Tyler Ennis, interesting career. He always did look like a guy that would, he'd have like half a dozen highlight moments every year with just sick skill, but just the numbers were never really there. He had some decent years in Buffalo, and that really got him paid. I think he had some seasons where he was close to $6 million a year, if memory serves. Anyway, he got paid really well in Buffalo, had the trust of Lindy Ruff, but never really ascended much beyond 40, 45 points, if memory serves. And just one of those guys that had those moments of skill that left you wanting more as far as seasonal performances.
Yeah, by the time he got here, he was a bunches guy. He'd have a 2-goal night followed by a 2-assist night followed by a 3-point game, and then he'd disappear off the score sheet for a long time. Everything seemed to be in bunches his time here in Ottawa. Multi-goal and multi-point performances in a week, and then disappear.
$28 million earned in his career in American funds. So
not bad.
Life is good for Tyler, and is 34 years of age. Probably like what would you say, like 5'6", 5'7", maybe something like that.
Yeah, if that 5'7" might be the max.
Yeah. Smaller men back in the day, because it's more common. The Johnny Gaudreaus have come along since then, but he came in a different time when it was still such, unless you're gigantic, we're not interested. So, anyway, good career and a good story on the Spit and Chicklets podcast. And we'll wrap it up with this today, in that the Montreal Canadiens, another of the Sens' top rivals, have picked up Patrik Laine. Wow. That was a bit of a surprise that they were able to pull that off. But when you think of a guy that's making over $8 million with 2 years left on the contract at this stage of the summer, there aren't that many teams out there that would be able to take Laine on. So while Columbus only got Jordan Harris, who's a serviceable 4-5 defenseman, they did clean up their salary cap situation quite a bit with a player who didn't want to be in Columbus anymore anyway.
Yeah, it's quite obvious that he wasn't going to be there. And you must really, really, really want to get rid of a guy that you're going to trade a 26-year-old who's only a couple of years removed from a 40-goal season in Winnipeg. You must really want to get rid of him if you got to throw in a sweetener and take a 5'6" depth defenseman in return. And really the market, how many teams in the NHL have got $8.7 million available in their salary cap for this season and next? So the market was very small, and you really want to get rid of a guy. This is the kind of deal that ends up happening. So anybody out there saying, "Oh my God, the Senators could have offered better than that," well, okay, fine, but how are they going to pay him? He wasn't going to fit the cap here. I don't know that there's, outside of maybe San Jose, maybe Anaheim, how many teams in the NHL have actually got cap space to take on Laine? I bet it's 5 or less. So really, there wasn't much of a market out there for him.
Yeah. Winnipeg, in his Winnipeg days, he was second season, 44 goals and 70 points. Last season, of course, he went into the player assistance program. He had 6 goals and 9 points in 18 games. Even the season before, 55 games played, 22 goals, 52 points. So just since he left Winnipeg, it's not bad, but when we're talking $8.7 million and you're just not sure what you're going to get exactly. And now you're stepping into, because there's obviously maybe location had a hand in it with going from Winnipeg to Columbus, something different occurred there. But now you're going into one of the hockey hotbeds where pressure is higher than anywhere else. I would be suspect as to whether Laine will get back to the form he once had.
Well, you never know. You got some magic there. Maybe there's some magic in Marty St. Louis. You can connect with the kid. It's not bad his years in Columbus, but it's nowhere near what you would have thought he would be at, what he was projecting to be after his years in Winnipeg. It's just he's gone downhill. Remains to be seen, but it's a very expensive reclamation project. And if it doesn't work, they're going to have a really tough time moving him if they want to move him.
Speaking of moving, we had, let's see, it was broadcaster Kevin Weeks who put it out there that Yaroslav Askarov, the Nashville Predators goalie, who's still trying to find a foothold as a full-time NHLer, he's asked for a trade, according to Weeks. And Graham Nichols on the Hockey News wrote about it today. You can check it out at thn.com/Ottawa. And it leaves you, the read leaves you feeling a little disappointed, not just in the last 7 years and missing the playoffs, but the way they've just mishandled drafts, the way they've had asset management issues. Right about now would be about the time to be able to give the Nashville Predators what they would need for a blue chip goaltender like that. In terms of the Sens rebuild, this would be about the time where you could give up draft picks or you could surrender a couple of bodies. They don't have that to spare right now. They're just too thin to be able to pull that off, and it's a little disappointing. I can't see the Sens remotely being in on Askarov, but it will be interesting to see who is.
Yeah, they basically the Senators had a rebuild and then didn't work out, so they're sort of this isn't a second rebuild. This is like phase 2 of the rebuild. But even during the rebuild, Steve, I don't think they ever collected enough draft picks or collected enough young talent. They never seem to get enough, in my opinion. There's many other teams. Look at how many draft picks Arizona has this past year, the next 2 or 3 years, or during their rebuild, how many draft picks the LA Kings had. There was a better way to go about it. I just think, Graham hits a nail on the head when he talks about poor asset management, and it's really hurt them. And you're exactly right. If they'd done everything right from the beginning of this rebuild, right about now would have been the time. Okay, we need a stud goalie now, and this guy might be the right guy. But they can't even entertain the thought of trying to acquire him.
Yeah, if things were done right, or at least better than they were, you might have a couple of guys in the minors that are completely blocked. We'd like to bring them up, but there's no room in our top 6 right now for these guys. We got to do something with them. That's where you can make a sacrifice, but it's just too thin right now because of what's happened here. And again, it always flows from what's going on at the top. We've said that for 10 years. Let's call it quits right there, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget that our email address. Yes, Dominik Kubalik.
You teased everyone with Dominik Kubalik in the opening, Steve.
It's teased. Yeah, what's with the Colorado Avalanche loving all the Sens?
Apparently,
so
that's the rumor. Yeah.
Yeah, they got Brandstrom, they got Parker Kelly, they've got Kevin Mandolese, and now they're apparently going to bring Dominik Kubalik in on a PTO, right?
Right, and St. Louis is going to bring everybody's favorite Logan Brown on a PTO.
Tampa Bay.
Or it's Tampa Bay. No, it's St. Louis. Yep. Oh, is it Tampa? Sorry. I stand corrected.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he was in Tampa last year. He was with Tampa Bay all last year.
Yeah.
And then I think you read Andy Strickland reporting that the Tampa was going to bring him in on a PTO.
There you go.
But Andy Strickland is a St. Louis guy. But yeah, he's your favorite for sure. I can't believe you volunteered Logan Brown's name on this podcast. Well. Let's see who's the big Logan Brown fan now, Greg? Huh?
Yeah. Wrap it up, buddy. Wrap it up.
Well, I just tried to, but you reeled us back into the show.
Sorry.
Anyway. Oh,
holy smokes!
Get you a mute button there. Oh, you do have one. Anyway, our email address is sensnationhockey.com. If you have any questions or feedback about the show, we'd love to hear it. And we'd also invite you to check out the Hockey News. I'm the site editor over there and got some great articles up, thn.com/Ottawa. Greg, enjoy keep saying enjoy the week. We have 2 shows a week. That's how we're supposed to do it.
I'm going to Florida tomorrow.
Right. Well, enjoy Florida. What are you doing in Florida? Is that with the hockey team?
Yeah, the Latin America Cup, Steve. I'm not sure how Latin American Lebanon is, but we're in the Latin America Cup. I got a game against Cuba on Wednesday. I'll let you know how I do.
Excellent. All right. Well, have fun, safe travels, and we'll talk to you at our next episode.
For sure. Thanks, buddy.